Hi, everyone. It's Katie. Happy Monday. Welcome to Question and Answers. Um, I didn't get any questions for today's session, but something that I wanted to touch on was stress and sleep. So I have this week's challenge for the accountability challenge that I have going on. We're focusing on stress and sleeping, so I figured I'd cover that today. So the biggest tool to recovery or making any sort of progress in your strength gains, mental clarity, performance, not only physical but at work, is sleep. And it's one of the most commonly looked overlooked things today, especially in the Silicon Valley. There's a lot of deadlines, a lot of meetings, a lot of late nights, all that kind of stuff. And so sleep often gets pushed to the side. But what I wanted to talk about today is kind of building more of a habit to get our sleep schedule back to normal. So like anything else, creating a habit is very difficult. So starting out, it may seem like you're not making any progress, and it's kind of like pushing that rock and getting it to move is the hardest part. But once it gets rolling, then that's where progress can really you have something to show for. So this week, it's all about kind of making an intention. If you already know there's a couple habits that you have, like watching one too many of those Netflix shows late at night before you go to sleep, um, having a large meal before you go to bed, kind of the end of the day, you haven't had a chance to eat and it's all getting compounded in before you go to sleep, or having a big workout right before you sleep. Those are a couple things, or a few things that are big contributors. So, with the big workouts at the end of the day, that I think is pretty controversial because some people that worked really well for them helps them just they can switch off, go to sleep, and they got their workout in for the day. So if that's something that's not affecting you, as far as getting good sleep, I would say don't change it too much. If it is something you're doing and having issues falling asleep after, turn it more into like a yoga session or just mobility, soft tissue work, something that you're actually moving, um, or getting your kind of recovery work in, and you're also slowing your mind down. So a lot of those recovery exercises, like your half kneeling, uh, lunges, frog stretch, warrior poses, all those kind of movements, you do focus on breathing, and that relates to the breathing exercises that they recommend when you are trying to sleep. You can even think that 12 count in and then 12 count out. So super slow breathing, anything like that kind of stimulates your recovery side of your central nervous system. Whereas the opposite would be in the morning when you're really trying to wake up, or before a presentation, before something that you're kind of getting your mind right. It is the bigger, faster breaths. So just think you can switch it up a little bit, but this is more focused on the recovery side. So getting in some sort of stretching exercise, even swap it out from that last episode of TV you were going to watch. So instead of going straight from the television to kind of your night wind down to sleep, think about switching the TV off, getting in those mobility exercises, focusing on your breathing, and then going to sleep, and you might be in a better mindset and fall asleep quicker, because quality sleep isn't just how long you're spending time in bed. It's if you're hitting those REM cycles, and that's where we're actually getting in all the recovery. So if you're a pretty light sleeper, those waves are pretty similar to if you were awake. So getting in that deep sleep and coming out is very important. So how much time do you spend in that deeper sleep? And there's studies now that show smart alarms, uh, they can kind of track where you are in your sleep cycle. So if it senses that you're kind of in a lighter state of sleep, then it knows to wake you up. But if you have a set time frame of when you actually need to be woken up, then it can kind of pick the best time for you. So instead of getting woken up and you're still in a deep sleep, and that's when you wake up feeling kind of cranky and agitated, um, they're just a little bit smarter when you wake up. I can't remember the name of them right now, but that is one piece of tech that I wanted to throw in there, which is pretty cool because this is a technology company. So smart alarms for quality sleep. It's not just that annoying ring first thing in the morning when you're not ready. It does put a little bit more effort into tracking uh, what time, what state you should wake up at. So the next thing with that is going to be how we kind of set the room for falling asleep to get into that quality stage of sleep. And a couple of things that Exos recommends is lowering your thermostat. So making a little bit of a colder environment. And the scent of the room. So lavender is a good one, something that kind of brings you into a calmer state. Um, that's something you can either get a room spray or the essential oil that goes in the diffusers that can run a little bit longer than a spray, or the little fragrance sticks that sit in a jar. Anything that kind of gives like a calming scent. There's teas like chamomile, anything non-caffeinated that's herbal. You can drink that before sleep, which I recommend swapping out from maybe a nightcap or a drink. Some people, you may feel like it puts you to sleep if you have a couple alcoholic beverages, that you fall asleep quicker, but it's not getting you to the sleep cycle that you actually want to be in. So unfortunately, it's not helping you out that much. The next thing is kind of your wind down strategy. So if you're uh, going to get ready, so you're in your bathroom and your lights are really bright, and you're brushing your teeth, washing your face, all that stuff, being in that bright environment again might kind of wake up your body. So think about if you can dim the lights, or use half the lights available. If that is something that you can do, that's just another trick. Um, and then the the next one is putting down your phone and your computer. So it kind of falls in the same with your watching a lot of television. So swap the phone for a book, something that you enjoy reading. Kind of give yourself guidelines each day of, I'm done with work at this time. I'm putting my laptop away. I'm going to read a book. I'm going to do something for myself. I'm going to stretch, roll, read, do something that's not involving technology. So, uh, yep, setting an alarm and then just kind of initiating that wind down. And the best thing you could do there is picking a time each day and being consistent with that. Because the first couple of days it might seem a little weird and not helpful, but if you kind of create that routine and you get used to falling asleep at a certain time and waking up at a certain time, your body adapts to it and it gets more used to falling asleep versus not really knowing when to expect to fall asleep. So that's how those habits are made, as far as sleep goes. So just to summarize, if you are having problems with restlessness, loss of appetite, weight gain, weight loss, back pain, fatigue, um, all that kind of stuff, your sleep and drinking water could be the two easiest strategies you can use to kind of increase that performance, because it's not always getting in extra workouts and all that kind of stuff to fix your mental health. There's the recovery side, because stress isn't just physical, it's not just a workout. Stress comes from work, deadlines, being in strange situations like COVID-19 and staying at home. Um, so just creating a better environment for yourself to get adequate and quality sleep in is important. So that's the topic that I wanted to touch on as far as some Exos content. Another thing semi related is since we're still at home and a lot of people don't have equipment at home, then I was coming up with a couple ideas because some people were asking me, not in the questions, but just in general, where they can get exercise equipment. Because if you haven't noticed, a lot of stuff online has been sold out or on back order and all that. So there's actually a lot of equipment you can find on like Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist. It's not something that you you have to do, but if you're really looking for equipment, those are another way you can go. I think that you do have to be extra careful as far as if you're how you're paying for it. So if you're doing cash, like always try to do Venmo or some non-cash handling situation that's safe. Another thing, always wash the equipment that you get, even if they say like if they've Lysol it down, just do your own sort of clean down, put gloves on, wipe stuff off, and then just make sure it does look fairly new. I wouldn't suggest buying rusty weights that look like they've been outside for a really long time, but that's just my personal preference. Um, so if you were looking for some equipment with limited space, a couple things that I would really recommend would be the mini bands of three different resistances. So the red, yellow, gray, and that's usually from light resistance to heavy resistance. And that means you can get the full spectrum of shoulder resisted exercises. So you want a light enough resistance so you can actually get full range of motion without having to use bigger muscles to take over. For example, if you were in a push-up position and walking your hands out to different parts, keeping the band tight, would you actually be able to reach a little bit further? Another thing, reaching your arms up overhead while keeping your hands far away from each other. So a little bit of resistance goes a long way. And then the high resistance bands for lateral walks, hip flexor exercises, all that kind of stuff. And they take up no space. The next thing I'd recommend is some sort of floor slider. Um, and that would be something, a makeshift towel, basically. If you have hardwood floors and towels or unwanted shirts that you're using for rags, you could use those to slide back and forth. But they do make other actual brands that if you wanted to use them outside or on another surface, they're good for that too. Um, they were the ones that we have at the Samsung Fitness Center, something like that. I would definitely invest in because you can get in a lot of different workouts. For example, if you're doing a reverse lunge on the slide, it feels a lot different than if you were just stepping back. If you get that slow sliding action, you can get a lot more bang for your buck in that exercise if you add that sort of eccentric strength portion. And the contracting, bringing your leg back up is a little bit different too. A lot of core exercises you can do with it, a lot of upper body exercises you can do with it as far as pretty much stability and strength. Um, so yeah, those are great. And again, take up no room at all. Uh, Another thing, probably the first thing I would invest in is a floor mat. So if you're in your home, it's one thing, but if you're kind of stuck working out in your garage, I would definitely recommend a mat just so you can do a lot more barefoot exercises and not worry about what your feet look like after you're done working out there. Because I think now that we are at home, it's a good time to utilize doing your workouts with no shoes or socks, as long as you're not lifting super heavy weights or you're not dropping them. Um, So that way you can kind of get a little bit more range of motion and mobility work involved in your workouts. So exercise mat, and as far as staying clean and hygiene, it very much helps for that. Um, so exercise mat. Next thing I would recommend is some sort of one at least one heavy weight. And what I use for that is a sandbag. So I got mine on onit.com, and Skills also sells them too. So you get a bag and they come with fillers. So you will have to fill them yourself. Uh, and you can weigh it out. Um, Two different bags. You can make them weigh the same or different. Just so maybe you need your bag to be lighter for some reason, you can take one insert out, or you can have both. You can switch it up. So the good thing about the sandbags, not just from a strength standpoint, you have a lot of options as far as like what you're using it with. The bags have handles on the sides and in the center usually. So you can do your rows, you can just hang on to the bag itself and do squats. You can use the outside to do presses, all that kind of stuff. So it gives you a little bit more options. If you're doing lunges and moving it to the side, you don't have to worry about just hanging on to the bag itself. And if you took the fillers out and folded everything up, it is pretty compact, but otherwise it just takes up a little bit of space. So that's a good one for hitting upper body, lower body, core exercises. You can even use that in conditioning if you wanted to do reps for time, all that good stuff. So the super bands are another thing I'd suggest. So the mini bands are the short guys. The super bands are the longer ones, and they're also they come in multiple different colors depending on what brand you're going through. Skills has the gray, black, red, yellow. Yep, those resistances, and I think they're great from for strength as well as mobility and stretching exercises. So you can use them on their own, um, standing on them, using them for squats, good mornings, any single leg exercises. You can sit down and put them around your feet and row. Or if you have an anchor point or something that you can wrap it around and turn it into a handle, you can do single arm rows. You can do mobility exercises, ankle, hip. You can use it just to stretch out. So they are pretty versatile as far as just what they are. You can do a lot with them. And then last but not least, medicine ball. So actually two sort of balls. So physio ball or Swiss ball, the bigger exercise ball that you can use kind of as a makeshift bench. You can also use it for core exercises. You can use it for hamstring exercises. Uh, they're great. Take up a little bit more space just because it's not something that you should inflate and reflate all the time. So if you can swap it out for a chair, then that works too because it kind of keeps you in check a little bit more versus slouching in your chair. So the Swiss ball is great. And then a medicine ball I would highly recommend. And there's two different kinds you can get. And that would be reactive and non-reactive. So reactive is the kind that would bounce back if you throw it. And those are great for wall passes, anything that you're doing for conditioning, because it's reactive, obviously, throwing it back and forth. If you have a wall that you can throw a ball at, throwing it on the ground, all that kind of stuff. And then the non-reactive is good. If it's heavy, you can use it as a slam ball. So picking it up overhead, slamming it on the ground, repeat, or throwing it over your shoulder, getting a little bit of rotation movement in there. Both are great for rotational exercises, which is another thing that can be missing in anyone's kind of workout program. So being able to move an object from one side of your body to the other is very important because we do a lot of things in life that require rotation. It's not all just back and forth and side to side. We got to get the rotation in, and a med ball is a great way to do that. So if you don't have a wall to throw a ball against, it's pretty much overhead, rotating to the other side, slamming to the ground, and repeat. And you can even lift it, move it across, throwing it up in the air. They're just great for those kind of exercises. So those are what I would suggest as far as smaller equipment, pieces of equipment that you can have at home. And I have noticed that Craigslist and Facebook, they do have a lot of new equipment available in town or in the Bay Area. So maybe some people kind of bought it up in the first wave of the stay at home, realized that they don't actually want to use it, and now it's for sale. So also, the prices could be a little bit lower. I think some people are trying to keep it to what they paid for it, but you should always try to get a good price there. Um, so, in summary, equipment that I would get in a small space just to keep yourself active, getting those kind of movements in, sleep for stress recovery. Um, and that is basically it. I'm just going to check. I don't have any comments. I'm just going to check for any questions if they might have popped up kind of quickly. Oh, nope. Okay. So that is all I have today. And I will see you guys next week. All right. Bye.